What's going on, everybody, and welcome to Vinny's Corner, a part of the We Like Sports show. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. As you guys know, it is the MLB Draft Week and MLB All-Star Week, so we will be checking in on the Home Run Derby, the All-Star Game, the Draft, as well as some WNBA stuff, and tapping in on Vinny's Corner to talk a little bit about boxing and maybe some mixed martial arts. With that being said, everybody, let's cut to our intro.
Purdue as Mitchell looks for an answer.
Ooh, pure, nothing but net.
Garland to the basket, stole the inbound pass. He lays it in.
Basketball down there.
Very high percentage shot for him from that spot. Merrill for three. Tristan Thompson on the floor. Diaz for three. That's short. Hard rebound. Ricochets out to Merrill for three again.
For the We Like Sports show, tune in and see the latest the crew has to say regarding the latest sports topics nationally and locally. Make sure to check out our website as well, WeLikeSportsPC.com. Subscribe on all platforms, including podcast platforms, YouTube, TikTok, and much more. And be sure to follow us on X at WeLikeSportsPC.
Started with Anderson and Ramirez.
He said, let's go, right? Yeah, I'm sure he wants the game to start, but they won't let it. And rightfully so.
Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Vinny's Corner here on We Like Sports. To jump right in, last week we did do a little segment on boxing at the end of the show. This week we're going to jump right in and start with boxing because we do want to finish up and lead you guys right into this year's All-Star Game. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game is tonight. So last weekend in boxing, if you're a fan, if you're not, Jaron Ennis, the number 3 ranked welterweight in the world, who is also the IBF belt holder, put his belt up for the first time against David Avanasian, and he did stop him in the 5th round with some body shots. It was a great fight. There were a bunch of other fights on. Janibek versus Mikhailovich was actually called off because Janibek was unable to fight due to dehydration. So the middleweight belt that was on the line this past weekend did get postponed. As soon as we hear more about that, I'll get you updated on the latest. So what's going on in boxing this week? The guy everyone loves to hate, Jake Paul, is back. It's not with Mike Tyson at AT&T Stadium as was planned, unfortunately. But Jake Paul will be facing off in an 8-round cruiserweight exhibition against Mike Perry in Tampa, Florida this weekend. So that should be a good one. Definitely some exciting stuff to look forward to. In building up to that this weekend, that's on Saturday. On Friday night, you're going to see Alex Roca and Santiago Dominguez scrapping it. And I think there are a few more belts on the line on Saturday. I think we've got Junto Nakatani and Vincent Ashalabio are fighting for the WBC bantamweight title. Nakatani's putting it online again. He's quite a good fighter, so that's one to tune into. That is also on Saturday night. And Kosei Tanaka and Jonathan Rodriguez will also be fighting for the WBO junior bantamweight title fight. Last but not least, you got Riku Kano and Anthony Olasquaga fighting for the vacant WBO flyweight title. So there's quite a bit going on this weekend in boxing as well. And then now going from boxing, but kind of sticking with that whole combat sports thing, we're going to go into the world of wrestling entertainment and just touch on what was going on yesterday in WWE. For my folks who are fans of Raw, Rhea Ripley was back for the first time in a long time, and she challenged Liv Morgan to the World Championship at SummerSlam. So that should be an exciting one. Sheamus beat Big Bronson Reed. there was a couple of fights, nothing really too crazy. Damian Priest and Gunther did have a little face-off, but nothing came of it. Eventually maybe Gunther's going to get with him. But then after that, Damian Priest did fight Braun Strowman, and of course he did defeat him. Going on right now in WWE, though, I think the big thing to look forward to is going to be SummerSlam. Not sure exactly what the dates are on that, so let's get a quick Google search here. Do folks watch SummerSlam? I definitely do. It's August 3rd, so it's 3:30 p.m. on August 3rd. That's Pacific time, so 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. And that's the same night as the Terrence Bud Crawford Madrimov fight for the 154-pound belt. And Eminem will be performing at that boxing match. That's going to be going on in LA. So there'll be a lot going on this summer in all combat sports and wrestling and sports entertainment as a whole. Okay. And so just wanted to get that started. Now let's move on to the more important stuff. We had the MLB draft kicking off this week, right? And on top of that, we also have the MLB All-Star Game, which is tonight. And last but not least, we also have the Home Run Derby. So I did want to just touch on all those things. And I wanted to welcome my co-host, Peyton Vince here. What's going on, Peyton? How we doing, big guy?
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Doing well. Thanks. So perfect timing. We just kind of touched on boxing, a little bit of what's going on with WWE last night with Rhea Ripley returning. Some of the basic stuff, but we really wanted to keep it baseball focused tonight. We have the draft kicking. I mean, that you're a Guardians fan.
Yes,
right?
sir.
So you guys had the number one pick. So we wanted to touch on that first. What were your thoughts on that? Travis Bazzana going number one to the Cleveland Guardians.
I mean, I absolutely love the move. I mean, there's a lot of options at number one. I know there's probably plenty of Guardians fans out there that aren't satisfied with it, just because you also had Charlie Condon, you had Jack Caglione, you ended up having Bazzana.
Yeah.
I mean, Condon ended up falling even more than what people would expect, because I think everybody after one was gone. Condon was number two, but Bazzana, I mean, a while back, probably like April, May or so, I started to end up reading a lot more up on him from Oregon State and just the way that his mind works. And I mean, for being a college athlete, he reminds me, and it's a weird comparison, but a lot like Trevor Bauer minus the head case. Like, he just wants to get better. He wants to end up having every possibility to get better as well. Bazzana, like, I read up on him that during the offseason, he wanted to end up having his goals set, and then from there, he wanted to end up having that achieved. So he wanted to have the stolen base record for college. He ended up asking the leader from the year previously, what did you do to end up doing that? I took a walking lead. So he incorporated that the following season. And I mean, he said it a while back in an interview. I wouldn't think it's a stretch either. Him saying, I want to be up in Cleveland by the time September, October hits. The way baseball works now, I mean, look at Paul Skeens. That could be a possibility. And right now at second base, you have Andres Jimenez, but you also have a shortstop position that it's, you could say, a question mark just because you keep on trying it. You try Rocchio, you end up having Schneemann there now as well. Schneemann's not bad at all, utility player, but I think your guy would be maybe not this year, but you end up moving Jimenez to shortstop because he was originally a shortstop with the Mets, and then have Bazzana at second base.
I like it. So I was talking to a couple of people about this, the top five kind of group. The only thing that I got as like anything, and it wasn't even negative, but just a few different people were like, listen, like, if I could have gotten a guy like Hagen Smith, a lefty pitcher, that's got the kind of skills that this guy does. And I might have taken him first, but, and I said to them, I was like, listen, I understand, but I feel like Cleveland is in a position where right now they can really, afford to not go for a pitcher, and really start to look at building the rest of the infield.
And like, then from there too, I mean, honestly, you ended up having Hagen Smith. He was phenomenal. He was an 18 strikeout pitcher with the first college game of the year. And I want to say, or at least the first couple of weeks. And I mean, if you look at later on in the draft and the compensation round or the compository round that they call it, the pick that's the second round but not quite the second round, Guardians drafted a pitcher, high school pitcher, another one. Guy has great velocity. Then from there, they ended up having, I think, one more position player, a catcher. And then from there, the rest of the draft is all pitchers. So, I mean, they figured out their pitching problem. One of those guys are bound to stick, and they ended up drafting a couple high schoolers. And, I mean, right now, if you end up paying attention to baseball, Cleveland is a pitching factory. That's the way it is. So one of those guys are bound to stick. I think now the mindset would be from here you end up having big trade. You have many prospects, many middle infielders. From there, you just end up trading those middle infielders. You get a bigger bat, you get a power bat, and then you have your pitching, and then you're set for years to come. I think you're going to end up – that's why they didn't focus on position players, is because you have enough right now. And right now, I believe anybody's not an untouchable. Chase DeLauder, which is their number one prospect, I'd part ways with him. Why would I not part ways with him? If you could get a big bat, why not? George Valera was a top prospect at one point too. He's fallen off. I'd trade away him. The only untouchables that you have right now are the guys that are up in the big leagues, like John Kenstigi-Noel. I would not trade him for the world. He's a power bat. He's huge. He's actually transitioned into the big leagues so far. Hopefully that stays consistent and it's not just a myth. But I like the way that the whole month of July is going to be as a Guardians fan, honestly.
I mean, we've talked about this outside of this, and they're easily the one or the two right now, I think, in the AL. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's got to be them or Baltimore, right? And I think they're a little more consistent than Baltimore, personally. I feel like Baltimore's got some studs on it, so people kind of just put them up there. But for me right now, like in a series, I would take the Guardians over, even though Corbin Burns is starting today, right? So they do have an Oriole at starting pitcher against a rookie. That kind of stinks, because he's about to get outperformed by Paul Skeens, I think. But
yeah, it's going to be interesting tonight, without a doubt. I mean, I'm looking forward to the matchup with Skeens and the first three hitters that he ends up facing. And I mean, honestly, that just shows you how good Paul Skeens can be, depending on how his performance is against three of the top powerhouses in the MLB. I mean, Jose Ramirez is a 3-hitter for Cleveland, and he's batting 6th tonight. He's still a starter, but I mean, that's the All-Star game. You have so much of a great situation with the lineup that's your 1 through 6 that your usual. And I mean, Jose Ramirez is not a bad 3rd hitter either. But when you have guys like Judge, you have Soto, you end up having a star-studded lineup. It's the All-Star game, and I wouldn't mind seeing Skeens pitch 2 innings tonight. But in reality, we know the All-Star game. We know the way it works. He's probably going to get 1 inning. That's it. And especially the way Pittsburgh's been with the pitch count with him as well, pulling him from a couple no-hitters. It's bound to happen.
Yeah, no, there were probably rules put up front, like about what was gonna, like, we're not even letting him show up, like, until we've hashed this out with you guys, kind of like, this is, they know what he is to their organization,
Oh yeah, he's phenomenal. I mean, he's young. I mean, Paul Skeens is not even 21, I think, and
it's like I watch Pittsburgh games now.
Oh yeah, me too. I try to end up seeing it as much as I can. And I mean, he's a 22-year-old kid still that just got drafted. And I mean, when was the last time that happened? Like, you can't even say Mike Trout, Bryce Harper. Those guys did not end up having this quick in the big leagues. And even Steven Strasburg could even maybe end up comparing him to that. And he had a pitch count, and he always has, it seemed. But he wasn't even called up to the big leagues as quickly as Paul Skeens has. Maybe this is just the way that the baseball future is because you end up having these guys. This big thing, and I mean, a lot of Cleveland Guardians fans complain about it too, is the service time aspect. At this point, I mean, service time might be thrown out the window just because if you end up having a guy that's this good, it might just be your time to use him and use him as much as you can. And then if he earns that contract, you're in the era of you have to pay your guy no matter what, or else you're going to have to part ways with them. I mean, look at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is not a bad team. They're under 500, but if their guys aren't hitting, they're going to be a sub 500 team, and that's kind of the way they started out this year. The Guardians ran into them at a good time for the Rays because they took 2 out of 3, but look at what happened before. I mean, they made a run to the World Series at one point, and
They
that's
were good.
they are good. They're still good
but
no matter what, and that's kind of the motto that the Guardians have to end up taking away from it too. Is just the fact that you face good teams and you have to end up modeling your payroll system after it. And I mean, it's kind of a surprise, I guess, to some Guardians fans that Bozana was taken number 1, to go back to that point, is because you ended up having JJ Weatherhold as well. I didn't mention him earlier.
West Virginia University, my alma mater. That's a great
absolutely.
one. Absolutely. That kid's great.
He ended up falling way down when he was talked about as the number 1 overall draft pick. He had a hamstring injury. But if you're looking at draft money, Bozana was getting the most. So the fact that the Guardians took the chance on him and are willing to pay for him, that's a surprise. But they obviously had to plan when they end up incorporating a high school pitcher afterwards as well. They know what they're doing. That's why they're in the front office and we're not. But it's going to be interesting to see the future of baseball, especially with all these prospects. I mean, look at Jackson Holliday, another one. He's already had a cup of tea in the big leagues and has gone back down to end up figuring it out. But even a quick appearance is quicker than having nothing whatsoever. You learn from being in the big lights, the big fields. That's what you got to do.
You probably noticed this, right? This is, as a Yankees fan, this is something I see, and this is way more frequent now. They go into games, they have guys they call up, they throw them out there for a night. They're like, oh, that wasn't good, send them back. And the Yankees put the updates out every day, so all of the fans know, we didn't take this option, or this guy was sent back to AAA, so we see it every day. And I'm like, wow, like they didn't used to just like up and down. Like, I feel like now they're a part of this, and I think it goes back to just like all the way from like Little League, my friends, his kid, they play travel baseball, and like the travel programs now in America are very intense.
Oh yeah.
They have all American athletes traveling around playing each other as soon as it gets warm, And
not only just that though, I feel like with travel baseball too, when I was growing up and my friends were growing up, is you play travel baseball, but within the state. Now I feel like you end up having these tournaments out of state that they're going to California, Florida, North Carolina, everywhere on the East Coast for the East Coast states. It's not just within your state of travel baseball, because travel baseball at one point seems that it was just it was the step above rec. It was the step above just within your city, your
county
confinements
over
of everybody. Not even for us growing up. I mean, it was all like 5 small cities for us, living in a small suburb and pretty much Cleveland area, a little bit outside, 10, 15 minutes. And it was all small communities. I mean, you're talking to me, I graduated high school with 72 people, and that's a very small school. Some people even less, but that was all within that 72 people we graduated with. We all played rec baseball together growing up for the most part. And travel, you traveled within everybody else, like your Akrons and your Wadsworths and your East Coast.
You knew your competition after a certain point.
Yeah.
And like now, so okay, my friend, his family, they're in Hamilton Square, New Jersey. It's a suburb of like Trenton-ish area, right? They just got back. They just did a tournament in Georgia last weekend. I think next week they're in Massachusetts, but it's constant interstate travel, constant, but this elevates these kids. I think it's such a different level because they get to see such serious competition, so by the time they get to 20 years old, I mean, like there are a lot, I feel like there are a lot more 20-year-olds throwing 95 plus than ever before.
Oh yeah. And I mean, and also if you want to end up going into that retrospect too, you also have a lot more kids getting Tommy John surgery at a younger age, just because they're playing so much. They're playing their football, their basketball, and baseball, traveling during the summers. And I mean, you and I mean, you work out. I don't know if you end up having the ability to play sports anymore, but like I'm on my way to play softball shortly. And at one point I was playing 5 times a week, and I was 3 years ago, I was 25. And after a while, my body didn't break down, but I know it was close because when I'm playing first base and I'm stretching for a ball and I start hearing my hip start popping, that's not good. Not at 25. And it's just after a while, you just love the sport so much you don't want to stop. But at the same time, though, you enjoy playing. And that's what a lot of these kids do, too, is you end up playing year-round. And with travel, I mean, you got to remember how much these parents are spending for travel as well.
It's this is my best friend for the last 25 years, like that. And I mean, he tells me all about it, and it's like, it's a constant thing. But again, like, I get videos so frequently, like his kid loves playing ball. You know what I mean? There's no if you're just anywhere you say, like even when I was a little bit younger, like my friend's little brother, he played Division II, and it's not Division I, but Stony Brook football. And like when he graduated college, they offered him like some American football league in Italy offered him a tryout. He was like, I'm out of here. Like,
yep.
I can keep playing I can keep playing sports, and that's just when you're into a sport like that, like these guys are, that's what it is. It's like, I'll play anywhere, anytime, all the time,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean,
it takes a toll though.
Oh, yeah, it takes the toll really quick when you keep on doing that. And then when you end up having that ability to go overseas, that's why you don't usually end up hearing those people end up making it back to the States to end up playing professionally or get anywhere close to it. Developmental leagues, just because they didn't necessarily peak overseas, but they kept on playing. You could only end up taking so much, like we said. And like, that might be the future too. And that's why the MLB might be looking at the fact that you're getting these guys called up so quickly. And also, to go back to your point with the Yankees making their transactions, I firmly believe that with the Guardians, you ended up having Manzardo up. You ended up having Jonathan Rodriguez. You ended up having John Kensky Noel, who stayed there so far. Mm-hmm. You ended up having Gabriel Arias that stayed maybe too long, but he's back down in AAA. You've ended up having Jose Tena. You've ended up having a lot of these guys have the ability or the attempt to showcase back in June, early July, right in time before the trade deadline, just to see what your prospects could be in a trade package. You could say, well, this is what player XYZ did. We could trade him away for this power bat out of Team A and Team B in a 3-team trade. And you know that he could be successful, but we don't have enough room for him. And I mean, I think that's honestly every MLB front office out there that probably has that mindset. In other words, a showcase. Showcase him in the big leagues, see what they could do, scouts are amazing at the end of the day. They have every brain power whatsoever. They know if somebody's going to be a stud or a success or not. So, I mean, if some team values them more and they're not willing to value, let's say, for example, Luis Robert out of the White Sox, and they're willing to trade him for a Manzardo, a Rodriguez, a Tena, like I just mentioned, they're not going to end up really wanting to hold on to Luis Robert and maybe package him with Garrett Crochet. I don't know. I'm just making up scenarios here. But if you don't end up thinking that you could have a long-term or Garrett Crochet that you're going to have a lot more years, but you think right now this is at his plateau and maybe he's going to end up having Tommy John problems during the line, that's where you have to end up figuring out the prospect game. But I feel like prospects end up securing. There's a lot of fans that want to secure the prospects forever, especially in Cleveland. I mean, I used to be one of those guys that did not want to give up prospects for money. Yeah, and I mean, the Astros were a perfect team that ended up building from within and drafting really well. The Orioles as well now. I mean, they've drafted so well, but eventually you need to end up making a trade. Those good teams make a trade. Look at the Astros. They traded for Verlander. Look at the Orioles. They ended up getting Montgomery, I believe, last year. And they have so many opportunities.
Like, in a situation like the Guardians, right? Now it looks like this team is going to be continue to be able to pick the right pitchers and to develop pitchers well, right? They look like a club that now has an understanding of how to do that, and we expect it. But it's also like, well, right now we've got an A1 bullpen. Like, so we need to, like, so we can wait and develop, but like, if we can get that extra piece right now, like this bullpen will already shut it down for us. That one extra player in the lineup might change the, you know what I mean? A guy who puts up, averages 2 ribbies a game and, bats 3 out of, like, you never know what one guy is going to do for a team who's got the kind of talent on one side of the ball already that the Guardians have.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you're spot on. Like, and the thing is too, is that maybe if it's, I mean, at this point, I think for Cleveland, it's World Series or bust. And hopefully, like you said, out of the Orioles and out of the Guardians, I'm, after the last week and a half, not as confident as you are, which is crazy just because from within, and you start to worry that, was this the team that everybody believed that they would be? That usually in years past, they never were this great of a team to start off to a hot start. And hopefully it was just All-Star break. It was needed, and they're going to end up having that second half refuel. But right now, after losing the last probably, I don't have anything in front of me, but I'm guessing the last 4 out of 6, last 3 out of 7, you start to get concerned just because this is what everybody's biggest hypocrisy was of this whole entire team. And now you're looking at, okay, well, maybe this is the reality that everybody believed, or maybe they come back in the second half and just dominate. And hopefully that is the case. Hopefully they do end up getting a big piece at the deadline, and that's not an issue then. But you got to end up doing what you got to do in order to end up having that ability to succeed. And then from there, I mean, even if it's a 1-year type thing, like even if it would be like how they almost traded for Jonathan Lucroy in the past, and he probably would not have stayed. I mean, he didn't end up coming at all. But even if he had one good year, so be it. I would end up doing that. Even if that was the case, I'd even take the rental right now. But I'd rather have somebody that's under a little bit more control, just because that's the way Cleveland does trades. You want a guy that's under control for a while so that you have the ability to have them for the next 2, 3 years, maybe 4.
You want what the Yankees just got in Soto.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, bring him in on a short term, but like the expectation for everyone in the Yankees organization is this guy signing a 10-year contract.
Yep.
Soon. You know what I mean? Like, but it was like, well, we'll go get him, bring him in, see what it looks like, and then we can make a decision on that, and in this case, obviously for us, it's working out, but that's exactly the same. Cleveland needs to find that guy, who really is. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people were like, well, what kind of Soto are you going to get? I was like, we're going to get the best Soto. Like, what else can I think as a fan of this team? Yep. I have to believe this is going to be the awesome trade, and that's what it is, and I think that that's exactly what Cleveland needs right now, is just to like find somebody who maybe elsewhere is not quite what they're supposed to be, but that fits in that park and fits in that lineup and will really just turn the page for them.
And I mean, sometimes that's all it is just a change in the environment. I mean, Luis Robert is batting under 200, or at least was. Maybe him playing in Cleveland and having a different clubhouse, a different leadership, maybe a different role in general. Maybe it's just too much right now. I mean, losing a lot like the White Sox are might get in your head. You might end up being so hungry of a competitor. And I'm not saying it's the right thing to the people out there that are athletes to end up always having that win now aspect, but everybody likes winning. But you don't want to turn into a clubhouse cancer necessarily. And from there, you don't want to end up having any issues. And like, look at Yasiel Puig. He was a head case, and that's why the Reds were willing to part ways with him back when they ended up having that trade with Trevor Bauer. But in that whole entire trade with Trevor Bauer, the best piece wasn't Yasiel Puig. There's so much more to that trade for Trevor Bauer that was better off. But sometimes a change of scenery is the best case. But for example, Jose Abreu, he had a change of scenery, looked good in the beginning, but now he got DFA'd, and now nobody hears of him. But do you think he's going to end up being a trade piece? I'm sure somebody would end up trading for him if he has that ability, or if he's already not claimed off of waivers by then too.
I mean, that's a guy like Abreu, like, you can always have a guy like that, if nothing else, to potentially put in as a DH. I mean, he's a good player. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't look like he's supposed to in this situation, but that happens. Now, so what I wanted to kind of just switch gears to a little bit here, we didn't touch on the home run derby. What were your thoughts? So they continuously are amending, the way that the rules are, and they change it up every few years, right? What did you think about the new format?
I mean, honestly, the new format, I mean, I liked it. I think it was a good way to have the format because, for example, looking back at it, I mean, Pete Alonso did not have a good showing whatsoever. You could only win it so often, and maybe that was the case. I mean, you could only end up having that home run swing for a home run derby so often. But if it was the old format, during his matchup, he might not have ended up having the ability to end up having the road he did. Maybe he does advance against his opponent instead. But I think that's the right approach to do it, is having the best 4 hitters out of it and then make it bracket play, just because that made sense. And I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't end up hating the fact about the 40 pitches or 3 minutes. I mean, I think that was the thing that a lot of times you ended up always having too many players take it for so long that you ended up having millions and millions of pitches, it seemed like, go by, or else they ended up, I mean, it's still a 3-hour long competition and they're trying to save on time. And that's just the way that they ended up doing it this year. Even with the change of format, they might end up even critiquing it even more for next year, but it's not a bad idea to go forward. I didn't hate it at all. And to end up having your guys like Alec Boehm, Jose Ramirez, Bobby Witt, Teoscar Hernandez go in the Final Four. I mean, after Pete Alonso was out, if you weren't a baseball fan and you ended up seeing it was your top 4, if you're a smaller market person, you're probably invested because, I mean, the matchups were phenomenal. I mean, you ended up having the Dodgers against the Phillies. Right? You ended up having the Guardians against the Royals. And, I mean, Bobby Witt even ended up saying, too, he goes, he's fun to watch, but I don't like playing against him. Like, it's not – it's just that friendly competition. You don't want to be matched up against him. And I'm sure Bobby Witt would rather have been on the other end because maybe he would have won the home run derby instead of just coming up short barely. But that's the right way to do it, because if you are a smaller market person or else you're just a fan of baseball, you already know that the champion is already dethroned by the time you get to the finals. So by that, I mean, it's kind of like in boxing, for example, or wrestling, WWE, UFC. If they're fighting for a vacant title, you already know that there's going to be a new champion regardless. So you might be a little bit more invested because there is a new champion and it's not going to be the same reigning champion every year.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. I like the new format. I thought it was good. I just like that more Olympic or world championship style where, top 4 clears. There's no, I like the way they did that. I thought it was great. I really I was surprised that it was like Bobby Witt was like, what, the first or second batter? And he posted that initial number, the 21. And I was like, sheesh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Okay. So we're going to have a competition here, and nobody topped that, but I thought it was really cool to see, because like you said, the smaller market thing, having Kansas City there for it, and Cleveland in the later round. And that's a real competition between teams there too. I thought that was really cool. As a Dominican man, obviously I love to see a Dominican yet again. That was the 7th time a Dominican has won. Kind of interesting because it was the first time a Dodgers won, but the 7th time a Dominican has won the home run derby.
Yeah, which is crazy that was the first time a Dodgers player ever won. But I mean,
mind blown. How?
Yeah, for being a big market team, but also at the same time, you imagine that those bigger market teams, they don't want their players to end up being in the competition. I mean, the first thing that I heard yesterday after bowling was when Jose Ramirez ended up taking as many home runs out as he did in the first round was, well, he's screwing up his swing for the rest of the season now, is because he's going to end up having just that, as he says, home run pitch he's looking for every single time. And you hope it doesn't turn out that way. And you hope he's a better athlete than that and better plate discipline. But that's always in the back of your head whenever they end up participating in an event like this, is having, okay, well, what's next for him? What's going to be the downfall if he does win? Yeah, it's bragging rights for Cleveland, but what's in it in the long run?
And so, I was actually talking with somebody about this at the gym today, and I feel like, right, as a team, you've seen this, right? We've seen it in the past. This is like growing up and watching baseball through the 90s and the early 2000s. There were a lot of batters who went out, and had an awesome home run derby and then really could not perform in the latter half of the season.
Yep.
And so just because that potential is real and that can happen, right? Like it's one of those things, like if I'm a coach, if I'm an organization, I'm basically setting up something. So like, hey, listen, like tomorrow, after All-Star week, after day 3, like you're out having batting practice with coach, working on making sure your mechanics are where they're supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like you got to hope that these organizations have mentally been like, we're going to prepare for this now. You can't just throw caution to the wind and like, hey, hopefully everything is cool.
Oh, right? Yeah. Like you have to end up working on just hitting in general. I mean, because look at during the in-between time for Teoscar Hernandez, he was in the batting cages with a weighted belt, essentially swinging at whatever was coming to him in the cages to end up winning it, which he did. But is his swing in the batting cages the same practice swing as it is before the game when you want to end up probably hit it down the third base line, hit it down center, hit it down the right field line? You want to end up spraying the ball at BP before a game, but right now in the cages, you want to get loft. You want to end up having what every statistic out there tracks now, your exit velocity, your swing plateau, your swing pattern, all that. He wants to end up hitting it in the air because at this point, you're getting a bonus out on top of it if you end up hitting it over 425. So you're ideally trying to hit it over 425 when in baseball, usually you're just trying to hit it out if you are hitting it out. You're not trying to put a little extra mustard behind your swing so you get a bonus out. A home run's a home run for baseball during the regular season and the postseason. But in the home run derby, you hit it a little bit harder, a little bit further, completely different story.
Yep. Everything you say makes total sense. And I think that like, it's really the only way you can look at it at this point. Like maybe it's not as risky, I guess, this day and age of ball because there a lot more batters are focused on being, bomb hitters, I guess, right? I grew up with small ball. That's not the baseball game that's played now necessarily. Some teams excel at it, and the teams that do, I think we're also kind of seeing play very good now. You know what I mean? I think that Cleveland's actually a pretty good example of small ball when they want to be. Sure.
Yeah. And hustle and heart is completely different when you end up having the game that way. Because, again, speaking of Jose Ramirez, there's however many times that there's an out at first base and he's on second with one out, and he's already rounding third going home on a ground ball to the shortstop just because he's hustling that much and earning an extra run. When, Logan Allen, he's down in AAA right now, but he had led the team in wins with 8 wins, but had an ERA over 5. You got to end up having the run support, and Logan Allen had the run support every outing to get the win or the no decision.
That is a fact, man. That is a fact. Honestly, I've had a really fun time watching Ramirez this season. He does really work his butt off. I was pretty excited to see that he was participating yesterday too. That was kind of awesome.
Oh, yeah, me too. It was a nice change of pace just to end up seeing it. He's been the last couple, not the last couple, but the only Guardian within the last 4 or 5 years to end up participating in it. In the time before that, he already went through the season with his broken hand. So there was hope that after having the first time around that maybe he would win it all. And honestly, I don't think if he ran into Bobby Witt, if he ended up going as that number 1 seed against Teoscar Hernandez, that could have been a whole entire home run derby. But also, if wishes were fishes, the world would be an ocean.
And hey, listen, you know what? I just wanted to take a quick minute just to highlight first, I don't know, for our gambling folks out there, the AL is the favorite today at -120 on the money line. And for folks that do like to gamble, if you go ahead and check out our sponsors, MyBookie at mybookie.ag, and you use the We Like Sports with a Z promo code, you can get up to $1,000 in gambling credits for yourself on that site. So do check out MyBookie, our sponsors today. All right, guys? Just wanted to touch on that one real quick. Yep. And so what do you think about tonight? Who wins, the AL or the NL?
Before I end up heading out of here, I'd have to end up saying, I mean, it's going to be a good matchup without a doubt. I think, and this is the way that the All-Star game is, I'm really excited to see Stephen Kwan against Paul Skeens just to start off the game. I mean, Stephen Kwan's batting over 350, and I mean, that'll definitely be a true test to see how good Paul Skeens is or how good Stephen Kwan could go against such a power pitcher. But, I mean, it's going to end up coming down to the bench like every All-Star game, but the homer in me, I'm going to have to say the American League ends up pulling it off, and it's going to be not a high-scoring game. I mean, 4-5, 4-3, something of that sort. I don't see it being a whole entire blowout, but again, it is the All-Star game. You never know what you might get into, but it seems that pitching always dominates within recent years, so it might even be less than that. It might be 2-1 even.
So you know how so we expect to see Skeens maybe 1.5 innings max, 3-4 batters, probably 3, right?
Yep.
Unless the inning doesn't go the way planned. But I'm wondering, and I am going to take a look and find out if there's I'm going to look for a hit prop bet for him under a half hits. I think that he's going to blank them in his 1 inning. That's just me. But I think Skeens is going to blank everybody and then step off. He's been on such a roll. I think that tonight's a night for him to show out, and I think he's going to do exactly that.
I mean, it's a great opportunity to showcase him, so why not? I mean, that just makes sense. But I'm going to have to run. Vince, it was great chatting with you, man. Kill it for the next however long you want to end up going, 20 minutes if you want to end up going to the All-Star break. And take care, man, and we'll see you soon. Also, follow me on Twitter. You see it right there, at Peyton Vince. Give me a follow and at We Like Sports PC. And also, Vince is doing a killer job with everybody else at WeLikeSportsPC.com. Make sure to check out our website as well. But we'll talk soon, brother.
Absolutely, Peyton. Take care, brother. Thanks. All right. So, guys, the last thing I wanted to touch on, because we are coming up to the All-Star break and the shows are going to be beginning here in about 15, 16 minutes. I did want to touch on something that a lot of people have been talking about here and there. I have not always been a fan. I'll be the first to say it. The WNBA. So we have Angel Reese. We have not just Angel Reese, but we have Caitlin Clark putting on 2 of the most epic performances in a first year, as a rookie. So Angel Reese just had her streak broken. She had 15 double-doubles in a row. Come on, that's just ridiculous, literally ridiculous. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, she's had the first triple-double by a rookie, and she's already setting records for her assists in a season. The 2 girls, between the 2 of them, I think it's just been a really exciting thing to see, an awesome dynamic. A lot of people trying to put one against the other. I don't think that's the need. I just think what's awesome is that they have brought the spotlight to women's basketball. It's a very fun sport to watch. I live in Las Vegas, so, the Las Vegas Aces being the top dogs, we do love to watch our women's basketball here in Las Vegas. But I did want to take a minute to just say thank you, guys. And I also wanted to say, if you are into working out and that is your thing and you need a little pre-workout or pick-me-up, you can check out Dubby. Dubby is one of the top pre-workouts out there now, and you get a nice little 10% discount when putting in the code We Like Sports with the Z. Check it out if you need a little extra energy without the jitters. Dubby pre-workout. It's a great product, I know. I work out sometimes. All right, guys, that's everything here from Vinny's Corner, and the MLB All-Star break. Have a wonderful Tuesday afternoon and evening, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.